We are Group 24, and we are presenting the negative impacts of information technology on how we think. With the widespread use of information technology, its impact on society cannot be ignored. Information technology is negatively impacting how we think by negatively impacting psychological health, how we work, communication, and our brains. Information technology hurts how we think by negatively impacting our psychological health. Through our increased use of information technology, we have become more narcissistic and more likely to experience withdrawal, all correlated to social media usage. Narcissism. Narcissism is the excessive interest in or admiration of oneself and physical appearance. Narcissism is identified by its traits, which includes intense feelings of self-importance, uniqueness, lack of empathy or apathy, envy, and arrogance. Problematic internet use, or PIU, can be broadly conceptualized as an inability to control one's use of the internet. Affecting 6 to 8% of younger populations, it leads to negative consequences in daily life. In a 2018 longitudinal study of the relationship between problematic internet use and narcissism, 74 participants of average age 23 found that initial levels of PIU predicted narcissism, but only for visual forms of social media such as Instagram. In fact, visual forms of social media may help emphasize and facilitate perception that they are the focus of attention and provide individuals with opportunities to present themselves in a grandiose manner, indicating that PIU drives levels of narcissism and may reinforce self-esteem of individuals with high levels of narcissistic traits. Information technology users can experience withdrawal, a symptom found in alcohol addicts. Another study was conducted by Reed with a group of 144 participants to determine the effects of disconnecting from the internet. Those identified with higher PIU were shown to experience withdrawal, increased blood pressure, heart rate, anxiety, and poor temperament. Similar to the effects of stopping usage of depressant substances like alcohol, cannabis, or other opiate-based drugs causing a withdrawal-like effect. Furthermore, a person's usage or dependence on social media can predict psychological disorders. A study was conducted by Rosen with over 1,100 participants to determine whether use of specific technologies would predict clinical symptoms of psychological disorders. An increased general use of Facebook and having more Facebook friends served as a positive predictor for narcissism and histrionic personality disorder. In addition, more general use of Facebook can serve as a predictor for antisocial disorder. Rosen's findings showed that a person's usage of social platforms serves as a good predictor for psychological disorders. Having anxiety and concern about missing out on smartphone communications also predicted more signs of compulsive disorder. Information technology has a negative impact on how we think when we work. Information technology disrupts our multitasking ability. Human attention and capacity to process information is selective and limited. Too many sources of information can create cognitive overload, and new information coming in can cause attentional shifts and distraction. A study conducted by Blakemore in 2015 had 60 participants tested on how the availability of cognitive resources affected multitasking during social interactions. Participants were asked to keep track of a non-social information while performing communication tasks with a computer avatar. This is similar to having a conversation with someone while in the middle of an unrelated task where one must keep track of information not relevant to the current social interaction. It was found that performance decreased by 10 to 15% between adults and adolescents when participants had to remember a greater quantity of non-social information in both social and non-social multitasking situations. This suggests that attempting to keep track of just a few pieces of non-social information during a social situation can be impairing to both the interaction and recollection of non-social information. This is commonly observed when using digital devices in social situations such as conversations, meetings, or even lectures. Rosen's study was able to predict clinical symptoms of psychological disorders based off information technology usage patterns. It also suggests that technology overly encourages and promotes multitasking through multi-window computers or multi-app smartphone screens using high-definition visuals, auditory signals, and tactile simulation. Inclination to multitasking through technology increased clinical symptoms such as depression, mania, antisocial disorder, compulsive disorder, and paranoia disorder. Information technology has shaped our thought process, which has in turn affected our memory. Supply of information has now changed into short blurbs rather than long content. It has become difficult for people to absorb long articles. Technology has shifted how we traditionally take our supply of information to what is termed a power browse. While we are reading more today, the quality has reduced significantly. We are now focused on efficiency and immediacy. We no longer take time to read deeply or interpret, we just decode or parrot off information. We are unable to make connections, and this explains why we can't really remember information, but we can surely point to where it came from. Relying on computers to remember information for us is known as transactive memory. We remember where items are, but not the content. A study conducted by Sparrow et al. To determine the effects of online sources and memory showed that people forget details they think will be available and remember items they feel will not be available. We have become dependent on the internet to remember things for us, to the point that if we are not plugged in, we cannot function. Alan Turing warns about this in his 1936 address to the London Mathematical Society. Technology is subsuming our ability to operate. Humans should use technology as a tool, not our everything. Information technology has affected our ability to think critically. The increase of technology has led to the reduction in quality of reading, whether it be through books, ebooks, texts, memes, or even online articles. This is because the primary mode of learning is increased through audio, podcasts, YouTube videos, or video interviews. Wolpert states in a 2009 UCLA article, reflection, analysis, vocabulary, and imagination are strongly correlated to critical thinking skills. Reduction in a medium to be read has significantly hindered our ability to develop and improve critical thinking. Information technology has affected how we communicate. One study by Sherman examined how different forms of communication, whether it be face-to-face, video chat, or audio, creates bonding and feelings of affiliation. In this study with 58 participants, results showed that interpersonal cues were lower in communications through digital media and that this decline was associated with decreased feelings of bonding and nonverbal affiliation cues. Participants reported feeling closer to friends in person than when communicating through text. Participants who had used digital tools did not show greater ability to connect with their partners. Information technology has impacted our motivation to learn through online learning. In 2008, Chiu conducted a study to understand impacts of web-based learning. It was found that social isolation occurs as a result of non-direct communication between learners and instructors. Interactions are primarily text-based, and messages are sent and received not in real time. The asynchronous nature restricts socialization, leaving the learner feeling isolated and lowering self-confidence. Studies like Chiu's have indicated that students learning online tend to suffer from social isolation, resulting in dissatisfaction with the course and students withdrawing from the course.
Information technology has negatively impacted how we think by affecting our emotions. Information technology has increased the stress associated with communication, which has led to more emotional negativity. We now have the ability to look into the lives of others using platforms such as Facebook. On these platforms, we are exposed primarily to the best parts of others' lives, and this bias leads to higher competition. This increased competition has amplified our stress levels and has changed what we prioritize in life. This change in priorities is increasingly bringing out the negative emotions in people. On this topic, Nicholas Carr has said, the use of technology in communication is increasing moral concupiscence, anger, greed, fascination, and jealousy. It's because the technology has created higher competition in the market. Everyone is fighting with each other for career, business, income, and reputation. It's creating stress in the communication. That's leading to anger and stress in society for winning. Information technology has negatively impacted how we think by negatively affecting our brains. Nicholas Carr talks about this topic in his book, The Shallows. He discusses how the internet affects the brain's circuitry and how we can think of the internet as a tool that is causing a de-evolution in humans. The cognitive stimulation provided by the internet is comparable to the stimulation provided by addictive behaviors which quickly lead to alterations in the brain's circuitry. The longer we spend online, addictive brain patterns become much stronger and the neural patterns that support intellectual thinking become much weaker. Furthermore, it is common for tools to have an impact on how we think. The plow changed the mental outlook of the farmer and the microscope changed scientific exploration. However, information technology is the tool that has had the greatest impact on our brains. The impact has been so great that it has rewired our brain, and in some ways, this can be thought of as a de-evolution. It is still possible to think deeply while using the internet. However, this behavior is not incentivized. For example, using the internet overloads our prefrontal cortex much more compared to when reading a book. This overloads our working memory, preventing incoming information from being deeply and thoroughly processed. This decreases our ability to consolidate long-term memories. In summary, information technology negatively impacts how we think. It does this by negatively impacting our psychological health, how we work, our communication, and our brains. Thank you for listening.